Honkander Harrington slammed the door of his sleek black Mercedes, his heart pounding as he watched James, his butler of 5 years, slip into the shadows of the bustling New York City street. It was well past midnight, and Hank had no business following him like this. But the nagging suspicion that had been building for weeks wouldn't let go. What he saw next hit him like a freight train. James entering a rundown apartment building in the Bronx, greeting a young man at the door with a hug that looked far too intimate for a mere acquaintance. Hank's world tilted on its axis. He had always prided himself on being in control, the 32-year-old CEO of Harrington Tech, a multi-billion-dollar empire built on innovation and ruthless efficiency. But here he was, lurking in the dark like some jealous lover, his mind racing with questions. James had been more than just staff. He was the steady presence in Hank's chaotic life, the one who anticipated his needs before he voiced them, the man whose quiet strength had become a silent anchor. Yet, Hank had never dared to voice the feelings stirring within him, buried under layers of family expectations and societal scrutiny. As he waited in his car, the minutes stretched into an hour. The city lights flickered around him, a stark contrast to the polished penthouse where James served him daily. Hank's family, old money from Boston, had drilled into him the importance of image. Marry well, produce heirs, uphold the Harrington legacy. Being gay wasn't an option. It was a liability that could tank stock prices and alienate board members. He dated women publicly, kept his truths locked away, but James made him question everything. Finally, James emerged, alone this time, his face etched with exhaustion. Hank's impulse was to confront him, but he drove home instead, the image of that hug burning in his mind. The next morning, as James served breakfast in the sunlit kitchen of the Upper East Side mansion, Hank studied him closely. James was 40, with salt and pepper hair and eyes that held a depth Hank couldn't fathom. "Rough night?" Hank asked casually, sipping his coffee. James paused, his posture impeccable as always. "Just family matters, sir. Nothing to concern you." But it did concern Hank, more than he wanted to admit. Over the following days, the suspicion festered. He started noticing things. James's worn cufflinks, the way he sometimes winced when lifting trays, as if hiding pain. Hank's company was thriving, but his personal life was a void. His parents, Evelyn and Robert Harrington, were pressuring him to settle down with Victoria Langford, the daughter of a rival tech mogul. "It's time to think about the future, Honkander," his mother had said during their last dinner, her voice laced with expectation. Hank resisted, but the weight was crushing. He confided in no one, not even his closest friend, Marcus, who ran the company's marketing division. Marcus was openly gay, living freely in a way Hank envied but couldn't emulate. "You can't hide forever, man," Marcus had once joked, but Hank brushed it off. One evening, after a grueling board meeting where he'd fended off questions about his bachelor status, Hank decided to dig deeper. He hired a private investigator, hating himself for it, but the need to know overpowered his guilt. The report came back 2 days later. James Thompson, widowed at 35, no children, but supporting an ailing mother and a younger brother with addiction issues. The apartment in the Bronx was theirs, a far cry from the luxury James facilitated for Hank daily. The revelation hit hard. James wasn't cheating or hiding a lover. He was sacrificing everything to keep his family afloat. Hank felt a surge of shame mixed with admiration. Why hadn't James asked for help? Was it pride? Or did he see Hank as just another entitled boss? That night, Hank couldn't sleep. He paced his expansive bedroom, overlooking Central Park, replaying every interaction with James. The way James's hand lingered when handing him a coat, the subtle smiles that felt personal. Was it all in his head? Or was there something mutual simmering beneath the surface? The next day, Hank called James into his study. "I know about your family," he said bluntly, watching James's face pale. "Why didn't you tell me?" James stood rigid, his voice steady. "It's not your burden, sir. I manage." "But you shouldn't have to alone," Hank pressed, his voice softening. For the first time, he saw cracks in James's facade, vulnerability that mirrored his own hidden struggles. As they talked, Hank learned more. James's wife had died in a car accident, leaving him devastated and questioning his life. He'd taken the butler job to provide stability, but the long hours meant neglecting his brother, who was spiraling. "I do what I must," James said, his eyes avoiding Hank's. In that moment, Hank felt a pull he couldn't ignore. He reached out, placing a hand on James's arm. "Let me help." James pulled back slightly, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Why would you?" "Because I care," Hank wanted to say. "Because you're more than my employee." But the words stuck, trapped by years of repression. Over the weeks that followed, Hank began assisting discreetly, paying medical bills anonymously, arranging rehab for James's brother. James noticed, of course, and their interactions shifted. Conversations lingered longer, touches became accidental yet charged. Hank found himself confiding in James about his own pressures, the facade he maintained for his family. One rainy afternoon, as they shared a quiet lunch in the kitchen, something that had become routine, James opened up further. "I never expected this job to mean more than a paycheck," he admitted. "But you've been kind, sir." "Call me Hank," he replied, their eyes meeting in a way that sent a jolt through him. The tension built, unspoken but palpable. Hank's internal conflict raged. Pursuing this could upend everything: his career, his family ties. Yet, ignoring it felt like suffocating. Little did he know the real storm was brewing. His mother, Evelyn, had grown suspicious of his disinterest in Victoria and hired her own investigator. The pieces were falling into place, threatening to expose not just Hank's secrets, but the fragile bond forming with James. Evelyn Harrington's call came like a thunderclap on a clear day. "Han Kander, we need to talk," she said, her tone clipped and authoritative. Hank was in his office, overlooking the Hudson River, when he answered. He knew that voice, it meant trouble. She arrived at the penthouse that evening, her designer coat draped over her arm, exuding the poise of old Boston aristocracy. James let her in, his demeanor professional, but Hank caught the subtle tension in his posture. "Mother, what brings you here unannounced?" Hank asked, gesturing to the living room. Evelyn wasted no time. "I've heard rumors, Han Kander, about you and your staff." She glanced toward the kitchen where James had retreated. "It's unbecoming. The Harrington name can't afford scandals." Hank's stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play coy. My sources say you've been overly involved with that butler of yours. Paying his bills? Spending time alone? It's not right." Hank felt heat rise to his face. "He's an employee in need. That's all." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "Is it? Victoria tells me you've been distant. The merger with Langford Industries depends on this alliance. You can't jeopardize it for whatever this is." The merger, a strategic move to expand Harrington Tech into AI-driven healthcare. It was worth billions, but to Hank it felt like chains. "I'm not marrying Victoria," he said firmly, surprising himself. Evelyn stood, her voice rising. "You will, or you'll lose everything. Your father and I built this legacy. Don't throw it away on impulses." After she left, Hank found James in the study, polishing silverware unnecessarily. "You heard?" Hank asked. James nodded. "I'm sorry, Sir Hank. I never meant to cause issues." "It's not you," Hank said, stepping closer. "It's me, hiding who I am." James set down the cloth, his expression softening. "I understand more than you think. After my wife died, I realized attractions I hadn't acknowledged before." The confession hung in the air, electric. Hank's heart raced. "Like what?" James hesitated. "Like noticing men. But society, family, it's complicated." They talked late into the night, sharing stories of suppressed desires. James had grown up in a conservative Midwest town, married young to fit in. Hank recounted his college flings, hidden from everyone. For the first time, Hank felt seen not as the CEO but as himself. But the conversation stirred deeper conflicts. Hank wrestled with guilt. Helping James felt right, but was it manipulation? Was he using his power to draw James closer? James, too, grappled with ethics. Accepting help from his employer blurred lines, especially with emerging feelings. The next day, Hank met Marcus for lunch at a trendy Soho cafe. "Dude, you're glowing," Marcus teased.
Spill.
Hank confided partially, omitting names. "There's someone, but it's risky." Marcus leaned in. "Life's too short to hide, Hank. Look at me. Out and proud, and the company's fine." But Harrington Tech wasn't Marcus's family business. The board was traditional. Outing himself could lead to backlash. Meanwhile, James's brother, Tyler, relapsed. James took a day off to handle it, but Hank insisted on going with him to the rehab center in Queens. In the car, silence reigned until James spoke. "You don't have to do this." "I want to," Hank replied, their hands brushing on the gear shift. At the center, Tyler was defiant, accusing James of abandoning him for rich folks. Hank watched James's patience, admiring his resilience. On the drive back, James broke down. "I feel like I'm failing everyone." Hank pulled over, comforting him with a hug that lingered. "You're not alone anymore." That moment shifted everything. Back home, they shared a kiss, tentative, charged with years of unspoken longing. It wasn't passionate fire but a quiet acknowledgement, free of lust, heavy with emotion. Yet doubt crept in. Hank's phone buzzed with texts from Victoria. "We need to talk." His mother called daily, pushing the engagement. Society's gaze felt omnipresent. Tabloids loved billionaire drama. James faced his own turmoil. His mother, bedridden with cancer, clung to traditional values. "Find a nice woman, settle down," she'd say. Admitting feelings for Hank meant betraying her expectations, especially as her health declined. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the city lights, James voiced his fears. "This could destroy us both. Your family, my responsibilities." Hank took his hand. "We'll figure it out." But the pressure mounted. Evelyn arranged a family dinner, inviting Victoria. Hank attended reluctantly, James staying behind. At the opulent Boston estate, his father pulled him aside. "Son, rumors are circulating. Clean it up or we'll intervene." The threat loomed. Disinheritance, board ousting. Hank returned to New York conflicted. The kiss with James now a source of anxiety. James sensed the change. "If it's too much, we stop," he offered, pain in his eyes. Hank shook his head. "I can't go back to pretending." Their bond deepened amid secrecy, but cracks formed. Hank snapped at employees distracted in meetings. James's mother's condition worsened, demanding more time. Then the betrayal struck. Marcus, in a misguided attempt to help, leaked a vague story to a gossip site. Billionaire's secret romance? It didn't name names, but Evelyn connected the dots. She confronted Hank via video call. End it or lose the company. Hank's world spun. He had to choose love or legacy. The ultimatum echoed in Hank's mind as he stared at the city skyline from his office. Lose the company? Harrington Tech was his life's work, employing thousands, innovating in ways that changed lives. But James was the first real connection in his isolated existence. He drove home in a daze, finding James preparing dinner. "We need to talk," Hank said, his voice heavy. James set down the knife, concern etching his features. "What's wrong?" "My mother knows. She's threatening to pull strings with the board." James paled. "Because of me? Because of us?" Hank corrected, pulling him into an embrace. "But I won't let her dictate my life." Yet the doubt gnawed. That night, as they lay in bed, conversations turning to whispers, Hank confessed his fears. "What if pursuing this costs everything? My family, my career." James stroked his hair. "Love shouldn't require sacrifice like that. Maybe we pause." But pausing felt like defeat. The next day, Hank met with his lawyer, exploring options to protect his position. "It's tricky," the lawyer said. "Your parents hold significant shares." Meanwhile, societal pressures amplified. A conservative investor pulled out, citing personal instability rumors. The stock dipped slightly, board members whispering, James's side wasn't easier. His mother, in hospice now, begged him to visit more. "Who's taking care of you, son?" she asked weakly. James hid the truth, guilt compounding. Tyler, out of rehab, sensed something. "You're different, bro, happier, but stressed." At a company gala, Hank brought Victoria as cover, hating every minute. James attended as staff, their eyes meeting across the room in silent agony. Victoria cornered Hank. "What's going on? You're distant." "I'm sorry," he said. "This isn't working." She stormed off, fueling more gossip. The turning point came when Evelyn flew in unannounced again, this time with Robert. They ambushed Hank in his living room, James discreetly excusing himself. "End this nonsense," Robert boomed. "We've arranged for James to be transferred. A generous severance." Hank's anger flared. "You can't control me like this." "We can and will," Evelyn said coldly. "Think of the family name." After they left, Hank found James packing. "They offered me a position in California. Good pay, relocation." "Don't go," Hank pleaded. James's eyes filled with tears. "If I stay, you'll lose everything. I can't be the reason." The argument escalated, voices raised for the first time. "You're running away," Hank accused. "I'm protecting you," James shot back. "From yourself, from society that isn't ready." The word stung, highlighting the maw of their differences. Class, age, experiences. Hank, privileged yet trapped. James, resilient yet burdened. In the heat, James revealed more. "I betrayed my wife's memory by feeling this way. What would she think?" Hank softened. "She'd want you happy." But the damage was done. James left for the Bronx that night, leaving Hank alone in the vast mansion. The solitude amplified his internal storm. Was love worth the wreckage? Society's defined norms clashed with his heart's truth. He called Marcus, pouring out the story. "Fight for it," Marcus urged. "Come out on your terms." Inspired, Hank drafted a statement but hesitated. The cost: alienation from parents, potential business fallout. James, at his mother's bedside, wrestled similarly. She sensed his turmoil. "Whatever it is, follow your heart," she whispered, her last coherent words before slipping into coma. Her passing 2 days later shattered James. Hank attended the funeral discreetly, offering support. In the cemetery, under gray skies, they embraced. "I'm sorry," Hank said. James nodded. "She knew somehow, told me to be true." The loss awakened James, but also hardened resolves. Back in New York, Hank faced a board meeting. Rumors had swelled, stocks volatile. He stood before them. "My personal life is mine, but for transparency, I'm gay. And in a relationship." Gasps echoed. Questions flew. But Hank held firm, outlining how it wouldn't affect operations. Post-meeting, calls flooded. Supporters, critics. His parents disowned him verbally, cutting ties. James returned, hearing the news. "You did it. For us," Hank said. But the victory was bittersweet. Media frenzy ensued, painting Hank as a rebel heir. Protests from conservative groups picketed headquarters. James faced backlash too. Old friends distanced, Tyler struggled with acceptance. Their relationship, now public, invited scrutiny. Every outing dissected, privacy eroded. Yet, in quiet moments, they found solace. "Was it worth it?" James asked one night. Hank smiled. "Yes." But doubts lingered. Had they chosen right or invited unnecessary pain? The media storm raged for weeks, turning Hank's life into a spectacle. Paparazzi camped outside the mansion, headlines screaming, "Billionaire's gay scandal rocks tech world." Stocks plummeted initially, investors fleeing amid controversy. Hank fielded calls from allies and adversaries. Marcus rallied support, organizing an internal campaign. Diversity drives innovation. Employees wore rainbow pins, boosting morale, but external pressures mounted. His parents' silence hurt most. No calls, no visits, just a formal letter revoking family trust access. The legacy he'd fought to uphold now rejected him. James stood by, but his own grief compounded the strain. Losing his mother, then navigating public exposure, tested him. "I feel like I'm under a microscope," he confided. They sought therapy, a neutral space to unpack. The counselor probed, "What sacrifices are you willing to make?" Hank admitted his fear of failure. "I built this company from nothing. Losing it would destroy me." James shared his moral quandaries. "Am I betraying my past self?" The man who married a woman lived straight. Sessions revealed deeper layers. Hank's resentment toward societal norms that forced hiding. James's guilt over finding love again, especially with a man. One evening, a betrayal blindsided them. Victoria, scorned, leaked private emails to the press, innocuous but twisted to suggest impropriety. Butler blackmail? One tabloid blared. Hank sued for defamation, but damage was done. Board members demanded his resignation. "The distraction is too great," they argued. In a heated emergency meeting, Hank defended himself. "This is discrimination. I'll fight it." But internally, he wavered. Was outing himself a mistake? The choice haunted him, love versus stability. James, sensing his turmoil, offered an out. "If stepping back saves the company, do it. I'll understand." The words cut deep, feeling like abandonment. "You'd let me go?" James shook his head. "No. But I won't hold you back." The argument exposed fissures. Power imbalance. Where Hank's decisions affected thousands, James's only his heart. Seeking clarity, Hank retreated to a cabin in the Adirondacks, James joining. Away from chaos, they reconnected, hiking, talking by the fire. "Remember why we started?" James said. Hank nodded. "Because it felt right." But reality intruded. A call from the board. "Resign, or we'll vote you out." Back in the city, Hank faced the ultimatum. He chose to fight, rallying progressive investors. A press conference followed. "I'm not stepping down. Harrington Tech stands for progress, including equality." The move polarized. Support from LGBTQ+ groups surged. Boycotts from conservatives ensued. Stocks stabilized, but the toll was personal. James's brother, Tyler, relapsed again, blaming the stress. "Your drama affected us all," he accused. James internalized the guilt, distancing slightly. "Maybe we rushed." Hank felt the sting of potential loss. Had his choices hurt those he loved? A turning point came at a charity gala for LGBTQ+ rights. Hank spoke candidly. "Hiding my truth cost me years. Embracing it cost more, but it's worth every battle." James, in the audience, beamed with pride. Afterward, they danced subtly, a public affirmation. But shadows lingered. Evelyn reached out via email. "You've shamed us. Don't contact us." The rejection fueled Hank's resolve, but also sorrow. He mourned the family bond, questioning if defiance was selfish. James faced similar. Old colleagues shunned him, labeling him opportunistic. Their relationship evolved amid trials, stronger yet scarred. Quiet dinners turned to deep discussions on ethics. Was coming out a moral imperative or personal choice? One night, a heated debate arose. "Society forced our hand," Hank argued. James countered, "We chose to fight. But at what price?" The question echoed, mirroring their journey's core conflict. As months passed, stability returned. Stocks recovered. The company thrived on inclusivity branding. Hank and James settled into routine, but the awakening was profound. Love demanded courage, but society exacted a toll. Yet, in moments of doubt, Hank wondered, had they truly won, or just survived? With the dust settling, Hank and James navigated their new normal. The mansion felt less like a fortress, more like a home. They hosted small gatherings, Marcus and partners, celebrating milestones quietly. But undercurrents of tension persisted. Hank's innovation drive faltered. Board skirmishes left him wary. James took on more, but his brother's ongoing struggles weighed heavy. One afternoon, Tyler showed up unannounced, sober but angry. "You chose him over family," he spat at James. James remained calm. It's not a choice against you. It's for my happiness. Tyler stormed out, leaving James shaken. Did I abandon him? Hank reassured him. You're helping by example. But the incident highlighted ongoing moral dilemmas, balancing personal fulfillment with familial duties. Society's evolution helped. Laws protected, culture shifted, but pockets of prejudice remained. At a business dinner, a client made a snide remark. Didn't expect the CEO to be that way. Hank smiled tightly. Expect excellence, regardless. The encounters built resilience, but cumulative damage scarred. Hank developed anxiety therapy ongoing. James grieved lost anonymity. Their bond, forged in fire, deepened. Anniversaries marked not with grandeur, but reflection. We've paid dearly, James noted on their first year public. Hank agreed. But I'd choose it again. Would he? The question lingered as challenges mounted. A lawsuit from disgruntled shareholders claimed personal distractions harmed profits. Though dismissed, it drained resources. Evelyn's health declined, reported via mutual friends. Hank debated reaching out, torn between forgiveness and hurt. She made her choice, James advised. But Hank sent a card and signed. No response came, amplifying isolation. James's awakening continued. He volunteered at LGBTQ+ centers, sharing his story. From hidden to advocate, he joked. Hank admired it, joining occasionally. Their actions inspired employees, fostering inclusive policies. Yet the price loomed. Lost friendships, strained relations, echoes of decisions past. In a quiet moment on the balcony, James posed, was coming out the right path, or should we have stayed hidden longer? Hank pondered. It freed us, but at great cost. The debate encapsulated their journey. Right versus wrong, blurred by context. As time healed wounds, they planned a commitment ceremony, small, symbolic. Invites went to supporters. Family absences noted but accepted. On the day, under sunny skies, they exchanged vows. Through trials and triumphs, Hank said. James echoed, with heart and honesty. The event marked closure, but opened new chapters. Media covered positively, signaling acceptance. Back home, Hank reflected on the path. Shocks, betrayals, awakenings. The billionaire who followed his butler found not just love, but self. Yet, questions remained. Had societal progress outpaced personal pain? Or was the fight eternal? In the end, their story posed a profound query. Was sacrificing legacy for love a heroic choice? Or a foolish gamble that ultimately harms more than it heals?